Hello and welcome. My name is Errity Green and this is Wise Woman Oracle and Tarot, otherwise known as Wise Woman Television. Today I'm going to pick a card reading for you on love predictions for singles. So this is for those who consider themselves single. So in one way or another you are not partnered and or perhaps leaving a relationship. I've seen that come up before. So do stick around if that lands for you. And if you do find you enjoy the reading, I encourage you to like, to subscribe, to press the bell icon. That way you receive notifications as new videos pop up. I do want to let you know I offer both personal readings as well as coaching programs to support you in your life, in your work, and on your spiritual path. You can check out those details below or at erritygreen.com. All right, from here, I will place a picture up of your 3 card piles to choose from intuitively today, and then we will get started with your readings. Okay, card pile 1. Okay, so it feels like you've been going through a period of healing of some kind. I am feeling healing. I was going to even say self-discovery, but that felt like You're just going through a period of healing. That's like all it feels like. That's kind of funny. Usually I get so much energy and it's like a flood of information, but just time of healing and coming into greater peace, greater harmony, greater connection with yourself. It feels like you might have been single for a long time, but it doesn't have to be that way because for some of you, I feel like maybe only recently single, but there's been enough of a pause, we'll say, to have some time to yourself, to do some healing work, to come back to yourself, to have more spaciousness. There just is some kind of healing here / coming into greater contentment and peace on your own or solo or within this space of healing. So that's where you've been for some time. Now, it feels like for some of you, or at least, well, for more than some of you, for many of you, because the energy felt even more as I went to say that, you know, you've wanted a partner or a companion or something like that. Here's what's interesting though. I don't feel like a huge gap in terms of the last time someone was in your life, but for some of you that might very well be the case because it's looking like some of you have sort of been in a period of maybe looking back or nostalgically looking back or reflecting, maybe wishing you were with your ex or wishing you were with this person or maybe a person or person of interest. A lot of it feels like past energy, so I feel like for many of you, if you chose card pile 1, that this is the case, that maybe you spent a lot of time thinking about this person or considering this person or maybe wishing that you could be together or wanting them back, and for whatever reason it wasn't going to be able to work out because clearly you're single, which is why you're here. But you have spent some time, we'll say, doing some self-reflection and healing work, but also sort of looking back at the past. You could be doing some reconciliation / healing work as well. I don't feel like that right off the top. For some of you, it may imply that, but primarily I'm feeling like this kind of longing, you know, easygoing longing energy or nostalgia kind of energy, looking back at the past and how things were and all that kind of stuff, where it's like, it doesn't feel like you're overly attached or desperate or grasping, but it does feel like this sense of longing. So perhaps you've just longed for companionship and it has been quite a pause or a space or delay in terms of you being on your own and finding this peace and harmony within yourself. It feels like that was the ultimate reason for this period of singledom for you. So whatever your last relationship was or when it was, whatever has happened that has led you to a space of healing and coming into your own contentment, that was the piece, or at least one of the pieces that was relevant for this journey for you. But you have found yourself looking back on occasion or even just longing for a companion and wishing, and maybe for you, you haven't found the person or the one or whatever, and so you sort of look back longingly at this other relationship, even though it's not here anymore, and you may not even love that relationship, but maybe it was just something and it was better than nothing for you, and that's why you look back on it. But either way, I do feel some of that energy. Now, I do feel like some of you, this doesn't feel like all of you, but that you might get annoyed or frustrated or stressed out about, you know, things not working out or happening quickly enough. Maybe you want a relationship or partner. And again, I didn't feel like the desperation, longing, desperation, grasping energy, but I do feel the energy of annoyance and frustration and a lack of patience and and it doesn't feel like heavy or intense. So it doesn't feel like baggage that you walk around with all the time, but it does feel like your mind sometimes goes to that edge of like, I'm not even gonna call it a breaking point, but it is like, it's so annoying. Like when, and I've already been with myself for a long time, I'm kind of over it. and like, it would be nice if, and wouldn't it be great if, and like, just like that small kind of annoyance, frustration kind of energy. And there's this invitation, this welcoming here, at least in your reading card pile 1, to embrace this time on your own, to embrace it, because before you know it, there will be another person in your life. Now, I'm not there yet. I've kind of looked down and I've seen what's coming here just very briefly, but I'm not going to speak to the energy that's not there yet. But it does feel like just enjoy this time on your own, allow this to be this time for yourself, this quiet time, you could say, quality time with yourself, the space for healing. You might not have had, or even now, had the time and space to tend to your wounds and do the necessary work, or whatever it is that's been unfolding for you for this pause, for this time period of being single. If you hadn't, if you'd been with someone else, you probably wouldn't have attended to yourself in the same way. And I feel like for card pile 1 specifically, this was learning about being on your own and standing on your own 2 feet, and not like this fierce, independent kind of way, although that might be a part of your journey, but just being content and at peace with yourself, and content and at peace with your life and how you do things, and being on your own. Those everyday things like cooking and cleaning on your own. And, what is that like? To not be codependent, to not be with somebody else, just learning life as you are on your own. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, it's just so easygoing and peaceful, this energy feels like. Yeah, because the harvest is coming. The harvest is coming. Whatever you seek, that relationship does feel like it's coming. Now, it's not saying when. Is it 6 months, a year, 2 years? Sometimes I can get a good gauge if I just ask a few different choices. 6 months, a year. I'm not getting like a full, like some of my readings come with a very clear deadline or timeline. I can really grasp it. I do like to ask for you guys when I can, if I can. I don't get a clear amount of time. I think it's because the invitation here is for you to really just focus on yourself and be here now and enjoy it as it is. And we get patience, allowing the seasons of life to happen, recognizing that there are always seasons, and this season just happens to be you as you are, where you are, whatever you're doing, whatever your phase is right now. This season is this season. Another season will come, and that will be with someone or in partnership. Whatever the harvest is, because this is my harvest card for this deck. I read intuitively, so it's not always what the message is at the bottom, and I'm not called to read that at this time. However, although it is relevant, clarity begins in the eye of the storm. Again, about embracing and owning the period or the season that you're in. However, this is also my harvest card, and it comes up to show me when harvest is coming or fruit is bearing, and I feel like your harvest is going to come. You rest assured, this partner comes, this companion comes, this person comes. They aren't here now. So for now, focus on you, focus on your healing, and allow this contentment and allow this peace while you have it, because it won't always be that way. And someday you'll look back nostalgically on this era and all the time that you had to yourself and all the healing that you did, and what a beautiful life you had then. And it doesn't mean you won't have a beautiful life then too, but I'm saying you'll look back on this with positive regard. So that's your reading card pile 1. Do let me know how it lands. You're welcome to share a comment and like and subscribe if you find that you enjoy the reading. As always, I do offer personal readings as well as coaching programs. You can check out those details below or at erritygreen.com. Thank you, card pile 1. Okay, card pile 2. These are predictions for singles, love predictions. Okay, so it's like for a long time you've sort of you felt like you were maybe abandoned or left out in terms of, finding that love or finding that romance or finding that connection. I do feel some toxic / dysfunctional / unhealthy energy in the past. So maybe you've been in relationships that didn't serve you, that didn't serve your highest potential. They probably served your growth and evolution very well, but you recognize they weren't for you. And for a long time, you almost felt like it can't happen for me. Like I'm just going to attract the kind of people that it ends up being some kind of trauma bond or wounding or whatever, where you sort of act out old patterns and it turns out to be something that neither of you like, it goes sour. And so you've come to believe, and even if this isn't like a full-blown belief, but you've come to sort of recognize that you might not be good at relationships, or you might not get good relationships, or you might not have great relationships or whatever. Like you've come to believe this about yourself because of your history. And so now here you are, you're single and you're wanting it for yourself. You're wanting to believe that you can have a healthy relationship, a stable relationship, a loving and fulfilling relationship. Yet it does feel like you're still working out old toxic patterns, perhaps. I would take a look at those and see what that energy is for you, because I do feel some toxicity. Is that emotional, that work that needs to be worked out? Is that trauma that needs to be worked out? Is it sort of toxic patterns of like, I'm kind of getting, this isn't going to be the case for everybody, you guys. You have to apply it to your circumstance, but I feel like the yelling and maybe throwing a book, that kind of stuff. And it's like, you can kind of get worked up and maybe over the top. So you might be looking at some of those patterns, so that way you can make some different choices and call in a kind of partner. Because, I feel like a lot of you do have some blame in the past partners, and that's probably true, right? It takes two to tango. At the end of the day, I feel like you have a set of issues too that you're either working on or you're being asked to work on. That way you can call in a quality person that you actually desire. That quality person isn't going to take that BS. So you have to be willing to, and I know you know this, you're here to do the work to clear some of that out. And I feel like you're either doing that or you're being asked to, and that should be initiated if you desire a healthy relationship. Now, this is saying that there is something here about authenticity in terms of, are you being your true self, your real self? Are you showing up and just playing a role and being the person that you think they want you to be? In what way are you not honoring yourself and your relationships? Because that's going to be the key to your healing, to your growth, to your evolution, and even your next partnership. We'll get a feel for when the person might be coming in later out throughout the reading. For now, it's being very clear that there's some things that need to be worked out first that are most relevant. If you desire something meaningful, fulfilling, we can pick anyone off the street and be in a relationship with them. I mean, that's the God's honest truth. But it's like, if you want it to be what you want it to be, which you do, which is why you're here. But I think some of you just maybe even you kind of have some of that feisty energy. You just want to, you're like looking just for the next lay. That's cool too. But it is saying if you're looking long term or for like a fulfilling, meaningful relationship, it's going to happen when you do some of that work with yourself and recognize where you're not showing up 100% authentic, where you might have some of these toxic patterns, dysfunctional patterns, looking back at your childhood, your family of origin, any kind of addiction patterns or attachment patterns. I am feeling that. I'm feeling, for some of you, more emotional work that might need to be done. So doing the work so you can call in and experience what it is that you want. That's really where this is coming. Yeah, getting that support to heal. Getting that support to grow. What support might you need to navigate this journey? Is it a coach, a therapist, a counselor, a healer, a group, a circle? But how can you get the support that you need? It is feeling like we have two support cards here. I don't take that for granted. I think that's very clear and obvious, and especially they're right here next to each other in the same reading about guidance, women supporting women. Now, here's the thing about the women supporting women. To me, that's just healing. That's community. That's coming together and supporting each other. One way or another, you're being asked to get the help that you need or the support that you need to make the changes that you want to make, to do the healing that you ultimately want for yourself. It might be something that hasn't been possible so far on your own, and that's why you're here, and then here's the invitation. But it could also be something that will just be easier and more accelerated if you get the support that you need. I'm also feeling like in the meantime, while you're doing this work, surrounding yourself with friendship, with community, with other forms of support. You don't have to rely on a partner or a companion or a romantic interest or whatever, or a love connection to meet those needs, or even a placeholder. If you came up and you're like, when am I going to get some or whatever. Maybe that's what you came through to ask about. All of that said, it's about, can you find community and support in other areas for this time being while you take this time to take care of yourself, more or less. So do the healing work so that things can move forward. Yeah. So again, this healing period is about being okay with who you are uniquely. There's some insecurity that might need to be worked out in terms of like, I think your insecurity and your lack of self-worth and lack of self-love is what leads to these relationships that turn out unsatisfactory, meaning you show up in ways that you don't want to show up in, they show up in ways that they don't want to show up in, and ultimately it all comes down to insecurity and unworthiness. And if you can work through this and recognize your value, your unique value, your worth, recognize that and really own that, that's really going to support you to make the necessary changes and take the steps you need to take and experience the kind of love that you actually want, that partner that you really want to show up for you. I feel like that's even a far off or even distorted desire for you at this point, meaning like you might not even want that. And again, I feel like a lot of you kind of being a little casual about it and like, oh, I don't need that, or I just want a fling, or I just want a companion, I don't need all that. And that might be true, and I think it's okay to own where you are, and that's part of it, right? It's owning who you are and what you want right now as you are. However, it's saying if you want something that is more fulfilling or meaningful or whatever, and ultimately the deepest part of you does, your inner child does want that, some sense of stability and security within a love relationship or romantic connection. If that's what you ultimately want, which it is at the deepest level, it's going to come from this kind of healing that is owning you, who you are as you are, your uniqueness. owning your own value and your worth. Yeah, we've gotten like all the conditioning cards, you guys. Like, I can't even tell you. Standing out from the crowd, not becoming the sheep, being willing to be the oddball out, comparison card. These are my conditioning cards. Allowing yourself to be authentic, allowing yourself to be yourself, showing up as you are, as well as the emotional healing card too. We got a couple of those. So this is about working on that. We talked earlier about some of those maybe toxic patterns when you're honest with yourself that you have or that you show up in, or at least come alive in relationships. Taking a look at that so you can patch those things up, looking at that inner plumbing, opening up the hood of the car, just seeing how things really operate. And, this is all about emotional responding, not emotional reactivity. And I felt that emotional reactivity earlier with that toxicity and the emotions and throwing the book, doing your work to uncover that, as well as the roots and causes of that. Even if you don't know, just taking a look at the long-standing patterns and doing the necessary work to be able to shift that. It's going to require more self-love. It's going to require more emotional awareness. It might require more support and community and getting to a place where you feel safe in relationships, safe to be yourself, safe to express yourself, cultivating safety inside of yourself, making sure you're a safe person to be around. That's a lot of that inner growth work that you're being called to do right now for you, specifically card pile 2. And so your predictions and singlehood are really about these invitations to do some healing work, to allow yourself to become more authentically you and get the support necessary, and allow those to be the people that sort of take up space in your life right now while you do this inner healing work, as opposed to like seeking out the next romance or love connection or partnership that might not be what you're seeking. They might be a little bit subpar or turn out in the ways that you don't want because these changes haven't yet taken place. So that's your reading, card pile 2. If this resonates, I encourage you to share your story below. Do like, subscribe, press the bell icon. That way you receive notifications as new readings come up. And of course, as always, I do offer personal readings as well as coaching programs to support you in your life and your work and on your spiritual path. Thank you, card pile 2. Okay, card pile 3. So singles, love predictions. I feel like you've moved on from something. This could be a relationship. This feels like in the distant past for some of you, could be in the recent past for a smaller segment of you, but I am feeling like more of a distant relationship that you've moved on, left behind, and maybe at some level you sort of identify it with that in some way, like I'm now single. But when you say I'm now single, it's almost like this association with having been before who you were before. So I feel that too. There's still like a connection or attachment there in some way. But you consider yourself as single, you've moved on. So for some of you, this is even a recent breakup, and maybe even the other person still thinks they're partnered, but you're pretty darn sure you moved on. And if you haven't moved on physically, you've moved on emotionally. You know where this is headed, you know that you're cutting it off, and perhaps getting the things together to be able to move on. And you're kind of curious as to, okay, well, what's going to happen next? And what's my life going to look like now that I'm single? And then that's what brought you here. I feel like you had to do this for yourself in some way. You had to move on to honor yourself, to honor your own path, to honor your own walk, your work, something like that. It came down to, having to honor yourself, which is what led to or inspired you to leave this relationship behind, or to have this time of singlehood or singledom where you're just separate from other people. Because for some of you, I'm feeling a small portion of you, 10%, maybe 20, but 10% feels more like it. You're here and you chose card pile 3, but it's less about having left a relationship recently or even in the distant past. It feels more of like you've been through this period of singledom or singlehood for a while, and that's even how you've identified as like a solo journey, like you're doing the damn thing on your own, and now you're maybe getting curious as to romance or love connection or whatever, and what's to happen next. Yeah. So there were some heartbreaks in the past, some broken dreams, some things that didn't work out, some seeming failures. I'm feeling like broken relationships, but also even maybe have to do with loss of job or loss of a home, loss of a future, loss of a dream, loss of a fantasy, kind of like when you're in a relationship and you kind of build up all these ideas about this life together and it doesn't work out. For some of you, though, I'm also feeling like you had this big idea about how your life would look, and it would include this and that and the other. It might include that partnership or a love or a romance or something, and that hasn't panned out. And so it's like broken dreams in that way, where maybe there wasn't, again, that lost relationship or series of relationships or whatever. It was more like the loss of a dream of what you thought would happen, how you thought it would all look. You thought you'd be married with kids by now, right? That's not going to be the case for all of you, but that's kind of like the standard issue American dream or Western dream, the conditioning that's a part of our culture. And so for those people in our culture who might connect with that or resonate, that's, tends to be the common expectation for oneself, and perhaps you haven't done that, it hasn't worked out, you're kind of wondering why, why me, and why hasn't it worked out, or when will it work out, or when will that happen for me? It feels like you're working something out in terms of past life history. If you don't subscribe to past lives, that's totally fine. You can just look at your history in this life and what's relevant in your family of origin, karmic and generational cycles in terms of your ancestors and family and generations and so on and so forth. You can look at it in that way or within past lives, but you are working out something in that regard that has to do with relationships and maybe even disappointments and losses of relationships / broken dreams, broken expectations. It's not showing me. Sometimes I get very clear, and if you guys follow me regularly, sometimes I'll get very clear hits on past life stuff, not as often as per current life stuff. It's not really my forte, nor do I think it's always relevant or necessary. I tend to get information when it is necessary, and that's pretty much it. So I'm not getting any clarity on who, what, why, when, where. I'm not getting it. If I do, I'll let you know, but it does feel relevant that you're working some things out in that regard, or there's some kind of pattern or whatever that if I'm saying that and that's landing for you, it's because you're already aware of it, and you're aware that this is your healing period. All of that to say, whatever form it takes, whatever way it looks, there's been some kind of disappointment or loss, even loss of a dream. If it wasn't the loss of a relationship, you've been on your own on this journey of solitude, of ultimately finding yourself or building a life. Having moved on, you're kind of wondering what's next for you. What happens next? Yeah. So I'm feeling like, again, for many of you, this has been a rebirth of some kind. Again, of finding yourself, setting out on a path of discovering yourself, who you are ultimately, what you want. Who are you on your own when you're not with someone? But I feel like for a lot of you, it's almost been your life, like a full lifetime, a vision quest of discovering oneself without other, discovering oneself without being in partnership or without having a companion. And I think some of you are kind of coming around the bend in some way where you might be getting curious. Obviously, that's why you're here. As to, okay, well, I've done this now for my whole life, basically. When will that person come in, or when might these other dreams that I do have, that I share with others, be realized? To share my life with others. Now, I am feeling like some kind of assuredness around a positive outcome that comes. When we hear, love predictions for singles, and you choose card pile 3, and I've shared what I've shared, I am feeling for you, specifically card pile 3, that there is a positive outcome, that what you want does materialize, what you want does actualize. It's just a matter of the whole divine timing and the unfoldment and the process and all of that stuff, but the variables are coming together, and that ultimate positive outcome does happen. For some of you, you've already met this person. They're in your sphere, they're in your world, your realm, and it maybe hasn't been fully actualized in terms of someone sharing their feelings or sharing or communicating or presenting an offer or something like that. I don't feel that energy. I do feel like more so that there might be someone already in your world, and that's why you're here and asking, because you're wondering. If that's the case and that's you, I feel like there is something here in terms of a potential positive outcome, something that might be worth your while to consider or to explore. For those of you where there's not someone in your world, as it doesn't land for you, it's just sort of assuring and guaranteeing a positive outcome, that the positive outcome is achieved and realized in this life. You can trust that. It's part of your karmic generational soul's journey cycle, that you're meant to realize this. It's meant to be a part of your world and a part of your life, and things are just working out right now, but they are working out in your favor. Yeah, I mean, you have 2 success cards, more or less. You have celebration, you have abundance. That tells me that you get what you want. What you are seeking does find you. What you want wants you. It's always on its way. You're doing the work, and there's nothing that you need to be doing different or changing, or you're not blocked. Like, this is on its way. It does happen. There's just things that are being worked out beyond what we can see. It's saying, like, have some fun with it, be more, and I feel like you have been for a long time, and maybe you're just being reminded, right? Re-reminded, like, again, is allowing yourself to enjoy yourself, because that's a wisdom and play card, and it's like, that always tends to be my card about being a little bit more lighthearted about it, easygoing about it, letting things flow, being more flexible, holding things loosely, not making it a thing, not making it mean a thing, letting things flow as they do, letting things come as they do, letting things arise, just, kind of leaning back and just allowing life to happen, allowing that journey to unfold. It very much feels like you guys are, walking the wheel here, like you're on par, you're on path. There's nothing wrong. You don't need to do anything different. The celebration happens. The positive outcomes happens. You do end up realizing these dreams that you have for yourself, whether it's sharing a life with someone, building a life with someone, getting married, having kids, whatever your particular dream is, because it spoke about dreams specifically. We have 2 cards around that. So I feel like it's relevant in terms of like an overall vision you have for your life. all parts of those are materialized and achieved at one point or another. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. So it's trusting that and letting yourself enjoy yourself in the meantime, keeping it a little bit more light, easygoing, playful, whatever, while you not even wait, but just be here, be here now. And then at some point, bing, something pops up. And for some of you, it's already there, and that's why you came here. So card pile 3, that's your reading. If this lands, if it resonates, do like, subscribe, share your story in the comments. I encourage you to press the bell icon. That way you receive notifications every time a reading pops up. And as always, I want to let you know, I do offer personal readings as well as coaching programs. You can check out those details below or at erritygreen.com. I keep saying /spiritwoman, but that program is closing enrollment. So it's just erritygreen.com. Thank you, card pile 3.